Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, and today I've got a very special review for you. It is a review of The Fellowship of the Ring, the first in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's actually one of my first audiobook experiences. So as always, grab your beverage of choice and let's get into it. How cute's my little cup? It's Alice in Wonderland, it says Wonderland Coffee, and then it says drink me on the back. So cute. Anyway, let's get into it. So I have been a Lord of the Rings fan since I was really young. Since the films first came out, I went to see them in the cinema. I would have been 12-ish, around that age, when they were coming out. I remember the first time I saw Aragorn on screen. That was a moment. That was a special moment. Him and Legolas. I think I actually preferred Legolas when I was younger. Now that I'm a bit older, I get Aragorn. I mean, both, ideally. Wouldn't say no to either, but there we go. Putting my preferences in men aside, we're going to get into a little review of The Fellowship of the Ring by J R R Tolkien. So, as I said, I did not read this book, I listened to it, but I don't want any comments saying, oh, like, it's not the same because you just listened, da da da. Like, listen, I used to be that person, and then I realised how ableist that is, and if you listen to a book instead of reading it, you're still getting the information. One sense is not better than the other. So none of that, please. I listened and I had a great time. So the version let me just put this down because it's actually a bit awkward hold. So the version I listened to was narrated by Andy Serkis. If you don't know, Andy Serkis plays Gollum in Lord of the Rings films, and basically I had wanted to read Lord of the Rings for a really, really long time because I felt like a bit of a fraud. I felt like I'm always telling people how much I love Lord of the Rings. I'm always quoting the films, all that kind of stuff, but I've never read the books, and I'm a big reader. I've read The Hobbit. I read The Hobbit when I was younger. Alexa just started speaking. She just said someone and then started phoning a number, like it was like ringing as if it was phoning someone. I'm just going to shut the door so she's not part of this conversation. Right, let me recenter myself. What was I saying? Yes. So I felt like a fraud, and I had wanted to read the books for a long time, but I spoke to a lot of people about it, and a lot of people that have read the books said, you know, they are quite dense, they are quite descriptive, they're quite long, can be a bit of a slog to get into. And that kind of put me off a little bit, not going to lie, because I'd already seen the films, so I was like, well, I know the story, so I don't really want to sit through like a really long book, and I don't want to dedicate loads of time to... I'm not the fastest reader, and I don't have the most amount of time to read, so I don't really want to dedicate like so much time to reading all three books. And then I was working on a film recently, and the director said, oh, well, you know, Andy Serkis narrates an audiobook version, and I was like, no, I did not know that. Why did I not know that? So instantly I was like, right, okay, if I'm going to listen to an audiobook, it's going to be the Andy Serkis one, because I just think he's going to do a really good job. And I was right. Anyway, I've kind of dived straight in. So I'm going to give you, in case you have no clue what Lord of the Rings is, which, I mean, how? But in case you have no clue what the Lord of the Rings is about, or the Fellowship of the Ring is about, I have written a very, very brief synopsis for you. So, genre is fantasy, high fantasy, I would say. Lord of the Rings is the first book, The Fellowship of the Ring and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's by J R R Tolkien, and it was first published in 1954, and it is 423 pages long, apparently. Although I feel like they look longer than that, but anyway. It was about 15 listening hours on Spotify, the audiobook, so make of that what you will. So my little synopsis is... In the cosy land of the Shire lives a hobbit called Bilbo Baggins, who for many, many years has been in possession of a powerful ring, which he decides to pass on to his nephew Frodo. With the help of a fellowship of elves, dwarves, hobbits, men and wizards, Frodo must embark on an epic journey to destroy the ring and the evil it possesses. Guys, I wrote that myself, and I think that's quite a good synopsis of the Fellowship of the Ring. Just saying. I would say the themes in the Fellowship of the Ring are found family, adventure, and good versus evil. Probably good versus evil being like the strongest, biggest theme in it. So let's just dive straight in to my likes. So my first like, Andy Serkis' performance. Chef's kiss. It is wonderful. If you're thinking about listening to an audiobook, or listening to the audiobook version, I would highly recommend Andy Serkis' version. This man is amazing. Like, he is a talented man. The array of voices that he is able to portray, all different accents and dialogues from throughout the UK. He does a Scottish accent for Pippin, and I'm not going to lie, I was a bit nervous for that because I feel like it's well known in film and TV culture, like Scottish accents, if you're not actually Scottish, can be a real hit or miss. I thought it was really good. Was it absolutely perfect? At some points, no, but like it was a really good Scottish accent. It was really believable. I didn't flinch at it. I didn't cringe at it, which a lot of times when I'm watching film and TV and someone who isn't Scottish attempts a Scottish accent, it makes me die a little bit inside. I'm just going to be honest. But I did not die inside when Andy Serkis did his Scottish accent for Pippin. I really enjoyed it. I thought his performance really invoked all the images for me. It really took me on the journey, you know, and I was just really impressed with it. Gollum doesn't really make appearance in the first book. There's mention of him and they see glimpses of him, but he doesn't fully come into it. So I'm really excited to listen to the second one and hear Andy Serkis voicing Gollum again in an audiobook form. I'm really excited for that. Another like is the storytelling is very immersive, and J R R Tolkien really has an incredible ability to build this world that the story and its inhabitants are in. And I really feel like now, having listened to it, I mean, I thought that anyway watching the films, but now having like listened to the book, I can really see that pretty much every fantasy book from that point on has definitely taken inspiration from Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like all the big sort of fantasy genres. And that's not to take anything away from them, it's fine to take inspiration from things, but it just seemed so stark when I was listening to it. I was like, oh, that's like this, and that's like this, and that's like, I was really drawing all the comparisons. And that's just a mark of a good story and a good world that he's built, that is so rich that so many people can take so much inspiration from it. You know, I think that's a nice compliment to him, I guess. Another thing that I really liked is the characters in this story. I mean, there is like zero toxic masculinity in this story. And in fact, the only real time that toxic masculinity perhaps raises its ugly head is when the ring is involved and it is influencing the men to behave this way. For a story that is centred around mostly male character, there's very few female characters in Lord of the Rings in general, and I would say that's probably one of my dislikes, to be honest. We could have more girlies in there, but yeah, for a story that is really centred around male characters, there's just like no toxic masculinity. These characters just love each other, they just big each other up, and they're just not ashamed about it, they're just not embarrassed, and I love that so much. Like, and I think that's portrayed really well in the films as well. It's just, they're just so wholesome and so sweet, and it's just such a good story about male friendship that we really don't see enough of. Another like simply is Samwise Gamgee. Full stop, period, the end. He is an absolute angel on this earth, and in this story Frodo would be nowhere without him. I feel like he is the glue that holds the fellowship together. He is just so pure and innocent and wholesome. He's a comfort character for sure. I love Sam in the film, and I was really like, oh, I hope that this is an accurate portrayal of the way he was in the book, and it definitely is. He is Frodo's ride or die, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. Another character like I have is going to be a surprise to no one. It's Aragorn. I feel like he is the OG moody, mysterious, sexy character that comes in and saves the day, and everyone feels protected when he's there, you know. And I actually think I fancied him more listening to the audiobook than I do in the films, and I fancy him a lot in the films, let me just tell you. But like listening to the way he is in the audiobooks, you're like, oh, he's just so protective, and he's just so like reassuring, but also dark and mysterious, and you never really know what he's thinking, and yeah, he's just everything. I think as well, for all the characters in this film, they really cast it absolutely perfectly. I honestly think the Lord of the Rings films are absolutely perfect films. I hope to God they never get remade. The Lord of the Rings series, like Rings of Power, I've been watching that, fine. Hobbit, fine. Please, God, the universe, whoever controls these things, Hollywood, please don't ever remake Lord of the Rings. Don't, because they're perfect. let's get into the dislikes. So dislike number 1, as I touched on earlier, it is a bit long. Now, I was surprised when I looked up like the page numbers and stuff online. It said 423 pages. Definitely felt longer than that, and the way people describe it seems like they're longer than that, so maybe the second and third one are even longer. Because I have read books that are 400 plus pages and not really batted an eye, but yeah, I think it's more like the density of it and the description that does make it feel a bit slow and a bit long. However, having said that, I understand that Mr. Tolkien he's building a world for us, and Rome wasn't built in a day, so you can't expect it to be that quick. I get it, but yeah, it did feel at points a little bit slow and a little bit long. Another dislike for me was the character of Tom Bombadil, which thankfully he doesn't make an appearance in the films. He's basically this, I guess he's a wizard. He definitely has magical properties. They encounter him quite early on in the book, and he saves Pippin, I think it is, from a tree. I feel like that sentence can only be possible in a YouTube video about Lord of the Rings. Yeah, he saves the character from a tree. So he's a good character. And he's got these like mysterious powers, and he lives with this like elf woman who's supposed to be really beautiful, and he lets the hobbit stay in his house, and like, great guy, you know what I mean? Like, great guy, stand-up guy. Annoying as bleep. I just found this character so annoying, and I think it's partly because he sings everything. He sings constantly about himself, about everything, like, and I just found it, I was just like, give it a rest. Stop singing, you're so annoying. So it's just me personally. I don't know if anyone else felt that way. If you've read or listened to the book, please let me know. I just found him really irritating. So yeah, Tom Bombadil, wasn't a fan of him. And building from that, I would say I also felt like there was too many songs and like kind of spoken wordy bits, like poems. It's not that I don't like a song or a poem, it just felt there was a bit too many and they weren't really necessary, and I didn't really get much from them. But yeah, I understand, obviously at the time J R R Tolkien would have written it, and then the time it was published, people were a bit more used to kind of like spoken word poetry and songs and things like that being in books and films and things. I don't know, I think we're just too impatient nowadays, to be honest. But they didn't really do it for me. So yeah, that was just another little dislike. I definitely think they made the right choice by keeping the songs to a minimum in the films. So yeah, that was my review of The Fellowship of the Ring audiobook as narrated by Andy Serkis. Let me know what your thoughts are on this, if you've listened to the audiobook or if you've read the physical book, and if you're a Lord of the Rings fan in general, just give me a shout in the comments, because I always like talking to Lord of the Rings fans. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.